about spaceships.
Or is it? You tell me. You guys are the ones in the chat. I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. It's my sketchy friend Rob. He apparently has some shit in his coffee.
It's about sketchy half and half at this point. I'll risk it, you know.
So after the show yesterday, I pick up my childrinos and who were growing in a test tube, and we go to a drive-thru to get after school snack because Daddy didn't go to the grocery store. Daddy ain't got a phone. All kinds of shit's broken right now. I got a phone now. Phone works now. I'm back. So if you try to text me, you can. But anyways, yeah. So this guy's all roll down the window, and I'm like, all right. So I roll down the window. So you Jason Ward? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, hey, we're here for 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh no, what'd I do this time? I'm like, that's like totally the vibe of somebody who goes and like brings back their big brother to like beat the shit out of you, you know? That's what I thought it was gonna be. No, and then he comes back and then he's like, he gives me like this thing. And strangely, a Mando costume. And I looked it up and it's like a really nice one. I mean, it's like it's not like a movie quality one, but it's like the high quality non-movie one.
So it's the ones Disney would hire to be in the background when they run out of props.
It's probably, I mean, I'm just guessing it's probably like the $200 one that they sell it from China, like with that's not licensed or something. Way in the back. Yeah. But I was like, thank you. And he's just like, yeah, man. I was like, okay. But that was the weirdest drive-through experience I've had, and drive-through was so slow. I wasn't even gonna wait. Actually, it just took so long to get through. He actually was able to go home and bring that back. But
that is LA, man. You're living the dream.
It was weird.
Now the next time you go to Galaxy Edge, you go, you Jason Ward? Get out of here.
Oh yeah, and we think that it was the green screen effect that was causing all the problems. Just had another theory. What if it's the image I'm using for the green screen?
Jocasta News strikes again.
Well, maybe if I put like a 6 megabyte uncompressed picture, that lags up. And if it's like a really crappy one, it doesn't, because it doesn't make sense. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. But
you need to put on pictures of me.
Yeah, right.
Marsha.
But
I always thought that's what Jar Jar Binks' Darth Vader helmet would look like because of the way it's got the beak a little bit, you know.
So
like Binks went Sithy.
So is it true that like they canceled the Rangers of the New Republic? Oh, allegedly. Oh shit, really? Yeah, they canceled it because Gina Carano. Oh, is that true? 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th sister? Yeah. So that's the new show, guys. Bye. No.
You think I'd get a lot of shit if I took my Gina Carano toy and brought it on the camera to complain?
I don't know.
This is why you don't get the Rangers of the Republic, because I don't like people. You know, like,
yeah.
I'll be like, you're just picking on women. I'm like, she'd kick my ass in 2 seconds. How can you pick on them?
Oh yeah, she'd beat the fuck out of you. She would. She
Yes.
would. I mean, and honestly, I might pay her to. I mean, me, not you.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I was saying, wow.
Yeah.
Wars is...
You were like, is it my birthday?
Oh, I can't bet. It's my birthday actually this weekend.
This is Scrooge levels. Oh, is it your birthday? Is it already your birthday
Sunday.
this weekend? Oh,
Sunday,
happy birthday.
Rob 43, death 0, buddy.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. I mean,
one day now.
say what they want about our parents, but we're making it.
Don't spend any time on that computer. It'll rot your brain. 43 years later. Hey, Star Wars.
Yeah, we're all here on the computer now. Star Wars Santa, I miss you, man. I haven't been able to hang out with on Star Wars Santa show or in the chat this week because of scooping.
Speaking of Star Wars Santa, so last night I had to get freshened up before I go back in the studio. I took a nap after the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on Kansas Point of No Return because I don't really know that album. Let's see how Santa got revved up in 1977.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I get it. Like I love the electric organ. You know,
Yeah.
like I really do. Like I love that sound, that Rockford Files electric
Yeah.
organ sound that once it hits, I'm like, oh, nostalgia. Like I still remember when it was on the radio consistently in like 81, 82-ish, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, no,
yeah.
as a kid I absolutely hated the sound of the organ, and now I'm a fan of it. It happens must happen after 30 or something, I don't know. But
I loved it. Or you
so
decided to pour toys, you know?
so we got some Willow news, we got some Indiana Jones news, and I took a picture of at the Mando set that I haven't shared yet. And
Ooh.
it's not wildly I don't want to mislead anybody. It's not wildly exciting. At least not to me. But here we go. Oh yeah. Hold on. Let's see what kind of funny stuff can we do here.
Lens flares.
Oh, look at that one. And
It's
hey
all right.
Meg, how's it going? Did you get a chance to see the show yesterday? Because Rob, he recanted. He was totally afraid of what you can do, like because you took away the power of my green screen. I'm pretty sure with your magic. But
It's true.
yeah. Okay. So Willow. I know a lot of you guys don't give a shit about Willow, and I understand. If you didn't grow up with it, it might not be your thing, but it is a Lucasfilm production.
It's a good
And
video game.
and if you haven't watched the movie on Disney Plus, it's on Disney Plus now, the actual old film. I suggest you watch it. I mean, it's directed by Ron Howard, who did Solo: A Star Wars Story. In my opinion, it's what happens if Star Wars made a Lord of the Rings movie.
Or if you don't
It's
want
not
to
going to
pay
make you
for
cry like Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. That, by the way, that shit ruined that they ruined it for me. By the way, I went to the theater, and like the guy next to me is just like a blubbering fucking idiot. Like, no, he's like crying before the shit happened because he knew what was gonna happen because he was so into it. It pretty much ruined the whole Return of the King for me, for life. You know?
It'd be like starting to cry at the beginning of Titanic because you know.
Yeah.
He's not gonna make it.
Jack is so poor.
Up!
Jack is poor.
Why is it in 3D? It's too real.
Hey Jordan.
You just flick water on him, like just be there, you know.
Before we get to the Willow talk really quickly, any idea why the indie films aren't on Disney Plus? It's because Paramount owns the rights to the first films. Originally, a deal was signed for 5 films with Harrison Ford under Paramount, and it was one of those situations where it'll probably never happen, but if it does, cool for Paramount. I believe Michael Eisner signed that deal when he was at Paramount. That must have been before he went to Disney. And what ends up happening, obviously, is that Lucasfilm buys it. And I got a feeling that at one point, Lucasfilm was just like, we just won't make anymore. Disney was just like, we won't make anymore if we have to distribute them through you. And so they were able to get the rights to everything after Part 4 on Disney. So until Paramount is about to fold and collapse and Disney swoops in and continues their, what's the word, monopolistic crusade against entertainment capitalism, that it'll remain that way probably. At one point, I think that they will probably be able to buy it back. But Raiders of the Lost Ark is a classic movie that still brings in it sounds like a lot of value to it. So I don't see Paramount giving that up easily. But, Disney's just waiting. Because I don't see how they can make a deal for it. I don't know that much about that side of Hollywood, obviously. But I don't see how they're going to stream them on Disney Plus, like Raiders of the Lost Ark on Disney Plus, and Paramount gets a cut. Like
the only way it happens is if Kathleen Kennedy or Frank Marshall end up running Paramount.
Yeah.
You get someone running Paramount that already has like a relationship over with the Disney side, because right now I imagine it's kind of like, was it Paramount's Mission Impossible, right? So like their little fight with Warner Brothers, like they're definitely cool with sticking it to other studios. Like, we won't make the guy shave his mustache. You CG the whole face off. like, damn, dude, you guys ruthless.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I don't even know how they revenue share that. Like what does Paramount get out of Disney Plus having indie on there, other than the fact that maybe it would be on there for a while, get removed, and then people are like, I want to watch indie again. It's not on Disney Plus anymore. But that's bad for Disney Plus to ever have something go on Disney Plus and then leave. That sets like a, oh, things could leave there. I think it's bad for both of them. So I don't see it happening. But hey, we'll see.
What if they trade for one of the Fox licenses? They're like, give us uh give us the Weebles, meet the Weeble, whatever the hell.
Give us Dennis the Menace or whatever. Yeah.
Was that with Macaulay Culkin?
What?
Did Macaulay Culkin? He did Richie Rich. Did he do Dennis the Menace?
No, he just did Richie Rich.
All right.
Yeah, and then he did a Sonic Youth video. So anyways, this is a picture that our friend sent us from. Oh, you know what? I wanted to make sure that I thank him by his actual, designation on the internet instead of, his actual like name.
His social security number. Yes.
Yeah. So our friend at utini.com sent us this. And it wasn't posted there. It was given to me, but he was like, give a shout out to Utini.
That is a classic stamp you got there, buddy.
Thank you.
That's very Godiva.
Right. I know. It was actually a big pain in the ass. I couldn't get it to change colors and stuff, but I finally was like, it did the color of one of the things. I was like, oh, I quit. That works. But yeah, as you can see, we have this thing. And so at first, when this started happening out on a beach in Wales, it was kind of reported as being for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I have a feeling the assumption was that it's someone out there in that beach area knew Obi-Wan Kenobi was a thing and thought that's the current production. Therefore, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And when it was sent to me, they were like, hey, is this from Obi-Wan? And I was like, and then a lot of other people started talking about this, what was going on over there and going to be going on over there. And I'm like, Obi-Wan was filmed in the States. I don't see them crossing over and all the way to England to make a stagecoach with a boat with skis on it. It's very
someone's
weird.
Got to spend those Disney bucks, Wards.
Right?
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, somebody's like, we have all these Wild Wild West props left over. What are we going to do with them? But no, but anyways.
West of us.
But they, so I asked a couple of sources, and they were like, Obi-Wan Kenobi is wrapped. They're like, if anything else happens, we'll let you know. And I was like, thank you. And that is it. That's where we leave off with that one. And it is a Disney-based production, which is telling. But it could be something else. I left the room for that open for that. But the fact that Willow is filmed in Wales constantly and is filming there and has a studio really close nearby, and the fact that they would drive this thing out there for a test tells me most likely 99% chance that this is for Willow.
So they really gonna put that in the ocean?
Well, when I'm looking at it here, I mean, number one, a couple of conclusions I made is Willow has one of the central action sequences, the spectacles, that Lucas puts in every one of his movies, was a sled chase. I think it was on a shield. And
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, basically. And with Madmartigan and Willow and little Laura Dannon, and they are and they slide down, and then Madmartigan ends up flying off and rolls into a giant snowball. But which is that part's like what? But so we see the skis on the bottom here and the stagecoach thing. Now, this is clearly like a stagecoach. And Willow did have things like that in the original movie to some extent. This one looks a little more Western to me, though, honestly. But it does have the little piece here, like where somebody clearly sits, like the bench with the feet and everything. So what pulls it? That is the question I have. Is it going to be like an aquatic monster? Does maybe Willow just use magic? Or
it's a Squirtle.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's.
I like it. I'm just wondering, like, did they put that in the water, or did they get one of those like shorter lenses to like compress, or the long lens? Can't remember which. I think it's the long lens. You get the long lens to compress the sea footage.
Yeah.
back there, so it looks like it's on the water, right?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. If that was the idea, or does she even shoot inside it from outside at times, and it looks like very realistic and stuff. But you can see it has like tires down here, and it's supposed to probably which tells me that could just be for moving it. I'll concede that, but it's probably so that way they can pull it.
Yeah,
And
they're probably going to use a long lens.
yeah, and
So it looks like it's on the water, but they don't have to actually go into the water because
but
the
it
water
also
shoots ain't fun, bro.
but look at the skis though. It could literally be sliding across the sand, right? I mean, it's like it's totally
Oh, like
it's
actually in the show, it's sledding across sand.
yeah.
That's right.
This may be like literally in a magical all-terrain vehicle that goes in the
Okay.
ocean with floats with these things, has the sleds, the skis to go in the snow and they filmed in some of the original places from the original film where that stuff was done. So I assume we either returned to that area or they want that vibe. And so that's what I'm just postulating or whatever. And then these right here, are these like character belts that are tied to it, or is this something for moving the device? Like these right here are clearly big belts, like actually strapping it down. But are these something else? Are these belts for characters put around there, which is very strange to do. It's kind of strange either way any way you look at it. So
Maybe miniature poodles are actually powering the thing, like
yeah,
a bunch of them.
and at first I didn't know if the skis were actually like skis. They totally are, because you could see like they built the little walkway down and it actually touches the ski here. Yeah, but pretty. Look at that booty. Sorry.
Oh, look at that.
Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to put your booty on the
yeah.
internet while you're just trying to do your job. All right.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's the Willow jazz. If anybody is interested, I am. And then we got the stuff from Indiana Jones 5 news on Twitter. Posted a bunch of stuff, and just right here we see old Dr. Jones.
I was gonna say Mansgold's aging.
Yeah, right. This is from the Italy shoot, and and there's a moment we'll get to in a minute, and very minor spoilers, but spoilers nonetheless. Obviously, probably should have said that before. There's a moment where Indy is like running through the streets and stuff on on another chase, and he jumps into one of these little tiny like Fiat cars, and there's a couple that was just married, and like he gets in the back or something, and they're just like look back at him like what, but it looks like the movies we've already seen, like two gags, like that gag and the other gag with the protesters.
It's not Michael Corleone's car he jumps into. Remember when Michael goes to Italy in the 50s and gets hitched? Like, what if he they Back to the Future to it with the Godfather, right?
Yeah, I got most of the stuff from Indiana Jones 5 News, which is a great Twitter account from Sicily, and Facebook, Jurgen Mathy. But look at him. Look, he's like, I'm Indiana Jones. Where are you taking me? Where are you taking me? I'm making movies? Sorry. It does look.
I need to crash another plane. I gotta do it every 6 months. Gotta do it.
Next time I'm gonna crash the stock market. Whoa, what? And here's our first look at Mads Mikkelsen.
He's actually dressed like Doc Brown.
he is ready to send Marty back to the future. Yeah.
I was like, is that Doc Brown? Look at that.
That is very Doc Brown now that you mention it. But yeah, he cannot. I'm sure he's a nice man. He seems like a very nice dude, but he cannot not look evil. You know what I mean? If he's a good guy, whoa, miscasting. Oh, here it is right here.
Indy escapes. Love that car.
Yeah, it says Indy escapes from some pursuers and gets on a vintage car of two newlyweds just married. And there you can see it. There's a little just married car.
That car is right out of Cars 4.
Yeah, it's adorable.
You know what I mean? I like the white rims. Look at the white rims. Dude.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, if the world converted to cars like this that were just this small, think everybody would just be happier in the end. Well, I guess maybe if you needed to compensate, you wouldn't be.
It's
but everybody
certainly
else,
hard to get into insane road rage with one of these. I mean, there's no room to hang like plastic testicles out the back of these cars.
But there's nobody could even cut you off. There's room for everybody on the road if these were all the cars. Traffic jams,
except for the Jeff Bezos, who like he sits on a stagecoach and like 6 of these cars pull his stagecoach, right?
Right? Yeah. Maybe that's what pulls on Willow's stagecoach. It's like very Harry.
Blues.
It's fucking Harry Potter-esque. Starts bringing that shit in, and then here he is again. Like, I mean,
that
honestly,
guy's trying to cover his boner back there. Like,
yeah, he is. He's like, oh shit! He's like, Harrison Ford is so hot. I can't help it.
I can't blame him.
You know,
yeah, look at that. He's got the slacks up to his waist, so you know he's a proper age.
Look at this guy.
Wow, that's pretty good for a PA though, man, with the vest.
Is that an extra? Is that like is he wearing the Michael Corleone like little outfit, that he wears?
He's too well. Only Sam Raimi pulls that look off. Sam Raimi and Chris Nolan. No PA. That has to be an extra.
Well, Sam Raimi and Chris Nolan, you're on notice.
Yeah. Stepping up the attire on set, man.
Yeah, and this guy right here, he might be Bane. I'm just throwing it out there. He might be Bane from the new really cool Batman movie where Batman's just super cool.
I'm Thin Bane.
Yeah. And then we got some more Indiana Jones. It's like kind of funny because look, his water is ready for blue screen. So if we accidentally leave it in, we can just CGI it out really easy.
It's filled with Ward's tears.
Yeah. Like, I want to see Indiana Jones in person.
Back there, it looks like Comic-Con. Like that dude on the right.
Yeah.
That's like total Comic-Con.
Got his fucking swag bag right here.
Yeah. He's got swag his free bag. Shit. Dude with the lanyards over there is just collecting them for 10 years.
Oh, wait. Is that a God Hates Fags sign back? Yeah, it is. Oh, it is no. Comic-Con.
Oh, no.
Fuck those guys. Fuck them. I hate those guys. Update. More photos of Harrison and Mads. And then I made sure to include this in case I forgot to cite him. I was like, this is insurance because I don't want to be that guy. Okay, so right here we have Indiana Jones looking very gruff.
That, my friend, is a Drew Struzan pose.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It is. It is. And it's pretty funny because if you change the background, he looks completely like Indiana Jones, like in a badass wilderness, but instead, it's just COVID-19. That's all.
We've all got COVID hair now.
Oh yeah.
Except for you, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I actually had hair until COVID, and I just started shaving. So I'm like, I can't make this even work even halfway.
Oh, Matt's got it the worst.
Fuck, Matt. Shit, dude.
Matt's got Heath Ledger Joker hair going on there, man.
I'm sorry, but you were right. I think that's Doc Brown day one.
Yeah. It's his other. What if his name was Brown? Like,
yeah,
or like the German equivalent of, I don't know what the German word for. You think I remember foreign languages, but I don't remember names. So.
Are those headrests like for headrest? Yes. or hemorrhoids?
Yeah, that's one of those little like golf carts that they drive. That's the job I want.
Know.
That person.
I'm just
the person in the front.
Yeah.
That my buddy. Whenever once you become a director, I want to be the guy that drives these. What's he reading? Jack Reacher. Oh shit, son! What if there's another Jack Reacher movie getting made and he's doing research and we just broke it?
Right? I think we just did.
Come on, man! Macquarie would cast Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, he would
in a heartbeat.
This is so ripe for being photoshopped to a toilet. Just throwing it out there.
It's not my boner. It's a water bottle.
Yeah.
It's thinking about Callista.
Yeah.
That's cool. He looks good in that sport coat, bro.
He does. Oh, yeah, look. See? Look at him. He looks... He
has something to get to 128 gigawatts.
Yeah, he almost looks like he's like a beat reporter or something. Like everybody thinks I'm a scientist, but really I'm just cracking the case.
I am German Jones. I am the German equivalent of Jones.
Oh, Mandalorian.
Oh, Mandalorian. Well, we took a leap.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go there so fast, but it's that kind of day. But what I wanted to show was this over here. Was remember I talked about how they were doing those tests and they were setting up like all those like winding looking streets.
Yep.
Well, it lines it up pretty well right here with how that's going to go. And can't imagine what they're going to film in that. And then, whoa! I went back.
Is there any particular reason why they choose the blue versus the green?
Yeah.
Like why a blue outside?
So
instead of the green.
Green is good for skin. Blue is better for everything else.
Oh, okay.
They're like unnatural kind of. There's unnatural elements to green, for that you don't find that green in skin, so you don't get anybody going transparent and with an oily face or something. Whereas blue, it's a little bit more problematic in that way. And so what that usually tells us is that there's probably going to be a lot of people in costumes. Not a lot of bare skin necessarily. Yeah, Mando, with the helmet on and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's a part of me that it oftentimes just kind of surmises that keeping Mando's helmet on is also a production bonus. Not only for the actors and the ease, but also for the fake sets. But I'm sure someday they will confirm that or whatever.
I have a friend who worked at ILM. I'm trying to see if he'd do an interview at some point because I'm interested. Like he worked on Revenge of the Sith and stuff like that. And,
oh, nice.
And I'm like, so when you have like 6 chrome soldiers behind a blue screen and the chrome is reflecting the blue or the green, like who does someone have to go and like triple check those keys and then roto that out like by hand, or is there like, yeah, like, or do they use gunmetal services?
Yes, by hand. But there used to be a person. I remember a featurette that came out for C-3PO. One person's job was just C-3PO the whole time because he would get reflections.
That's what I'm talking about. All the reflections.
Yeah, there was one person whose job was just C-3PO.
They just got to go in there by hand and clean up
every shot of C-3PO, anything that was, and I think they may have also added reflections into C-3PO as well.
Now, do you think if those Game of Thrones guys had actually made a Star Wars movie, they would have been like, "Fuck it, leave the cup in the reflection. We don't care."
Right?
They left like entire lunches on the sets of Game of Thrones. Like that is pretty ridiculous. Like for some pretty basic continuity errors.
Mando left the whole guy.
Oh, right. That's a whole guy.
Left the whole guy.
They fixed that though, right?
They did fix it. Yeah, it was fixed probably 24 hours later.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder what the real story with that one was. Was it like they were up against the wall and they put it in as soon as it was done? Or was it like an editing error? Or was it like, oops, better fix that now. Get on it.
One of two. One, they may have been looking at an incorrect aspect ratio when they were approving shots, right? Like it does happen, especially they're looking on their phone or something. Right?
Yeah.
Like it can happen. Or two, they uploaded the wrong shot. Like they approved a different shot and they just didn't properly like flip it out or whatever, and the wrong shot got in the frame.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But old Steve was there and he's just like, "Hey, I'm Steve. I'm canon now." My shorts, they're canon now too.
I'm canon now.
I'm canon.
We should name a kid Canon. How is Canon? Kanan, isn't Kanan?
Kanan's a Star Wars character. Yeah, he's in
Kanan,
Rebels.
There we go.
Yeah, people are obsessed with Kanan. Jordan says also the Young Indie Chronicles. Yeah, Young Indie is one of those shows where you can sign up for the Paramount trial. It's a Paramount Plus, and you can just watch all of those and for free and get it out of the way. So if any of you guys ever wanted to see the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, I do think it's ultimately rewarding, but like I've said a lot of times, it's not for everyone, and it definitely is 90s television at the highest level, but still early 90s television, golden age of cable hadn't hit yet, or of television as we call it. And I wish Disney would go back and revisit the concept someday, because making those today would be so good. They were highly
At
educational, and
least
that was the point. But
as an animated series, I think would work fairly well too. You
yeah.
know, like I think so. The Paramount thing is interesting. So when they announced Paramount Plus, honestly, the movie I was looking forward to most in 2020 before the pandy hit was SpongeBob on the Run. Like
Hmm.
I was like, this I gotta go see. I think it looks fantastic.
Hmm.
I'm laughing my ass off. I gotta go see this. And then they said, yeah, you know, we're gonna put it on Paramount Plus and Mission Impossible and a bunch of those movies. So I pre-bought it for like, like a 70, $80 for the year or something, right? And I was like, even if I have to pay for the movies separate extra on top of that, fine, I'll do that, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm not going to the movie theater. SpongeBob comes out, they put it on there for free. I'm like, this is amazing. Then they were like, yeah, we're not putting any other movies on this
Uh,
service. You know, and so I'm like, it's not a lot to watch on the service, guys. Like it's fairly barren, you know, like all things considered. I mean, the Peacock at least gives me all the WWF stuff from like the 80s and the WCW and the NWA stuff. So like when I listen to Jim Cornette complain about something from 1988, I can go on the Peacock, bring it up, you know, and rewatch it like, hey, but on the Paramount Plus, man, if they're not, there's really nothing on there. It's like, it's not good. So,
yeah, yeah. I still don't even know how I feel about the concept of Peacock and Paramount Plus and stuff like that. Like Netflix and Disney Plus, and even Hulu or YouTube TV. Those things, they make sense to me, but I'm not really like, I don't really want to go and pay anything serious for like Paramount Plus. If it was like $2, I'd probably do it.
well, my whole thing wasn't the other content. It was like, if I'm not going to the theaters and I was going to
Oh,
spend
sure.
this money on the theater and they're going to put the movies on there, I'll
Yeah. Oh,
give
totally.
them the movie theater money. Fuck movie theater owners. Sorry. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any loyalty to them.
Yeah. No, no, oh
But
no.
in
In that context, I totally get it. I just mean like
right,
in general, when you have like, oh, like we're 20th Century Fox, so now we're gonna do Fox TV or Fox Visions, Fox
right.
Plus. Well, you know, I have Channel 11, Fox on my cable service or whatever, and then so if we
Yeah,
just move totally towards streaming, then I think we end up paying more in the end. Like,
we do the Peacock, but our money doesn't go to supporting OAN and Fox News and all these right
yeah,
wingers that get the cable money bill, right? So there's that responsibility thing too. So I don't know ethically,
yeah.
but the Peacock I never would have paid for, except they bought the WWE,
Hmm.
and so the WWE had their own WWE network, which was actually a pretty good deal because since they bought every other freaking wrestling joint since the 70s, that
Right.
they had everything up on their service. And so I was able to go back and things like I was made fun of for watching WCW and Ric Flair when I was a kid. And so I would shame myself out of watching it, but I liked it. I liked the match. I didn't like the characters, but I liked the matches more than the
Yeah.
WWE. So I was able to go back and rewatch it, but they moved it all to the Peacock, right? And then the Peacock, not at first, it was really weird. But it's the only place this stuff isn't on DVDs. It's not. It's some of it's on weird tapes out of order. So it's the only real way to get
Like
this content.
best of WCW 87.
And it's not like
Where's
straight
that?
through and it's from like different stadiums every match, you know. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
just want the show the way it existed, you know. Um, so for me, like, all right, if it's that one thing, how much am I spending on it? Am I gonna really watch it? Well, I'm in my room for at least 8 hours a day drawing. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it on and get my money's worth out of it.
Yeah.
The average person spending that just to watch Friends, when you can just literally there's a million ways to get Friends, folks. You don't have to give
Hmm.
NBC that money over and over again.
In the afterlife, there's lots of time for friends then.
Yeah,
What I
I know
say.
you care so much. Although, you know what's funny? You know what came out the same season as Friends? Something Wilder. Did you ever
Mhm.
watch that? The Gene Wilder show? So fucking
Oh,
weird.
right. I do remember that.
It was so weird because
Yeah.
like he was supposed to. I saw the pilot for this show because my friend's wife was working on it, right?
Mm.
And so they're like, check out the pilot. It's with Jennifer Grey. And I was like, she's not in the show. And I'm like, what? And Gene Wilder is like fucking 80 years. He looks like Snoke with hair, right? And Jennifer Grey is like in her late 20s, early 30s, you know? Like, and she looks way younger at that time.
Is this
It
is
was
this
so
is this
weird.
is this pre nose job or post nose job?
This was pre nose job.
Pre
So
nose
she
job.
still
Yeah.
looked like Jennifer Grey. And
Oh,
I
it's Jennifer
guess
Grey.
they
Yeah.
had to replace her because people were like, the age difference, even by the 90s, was too great. So they got some lady that kind of looked like, I mean, when I say kind of, I mean like the same idea behind the wife on Home Improvement, you know? But
Okay.
it just never worked. It was just weird. Gene Wilder with 2 kids and no Gilda Radner. Like it really should have, this would have been a depressing show, but it should have been like Gene Wilder's character, Gene Wilder as himself, or a character like himself after Gilda Radner. Like, how do you move on and start dating again after the love of your life dies? Like, I think
Yeah.
people forget how close those two were, like our Ben Affleck, J-Lo back in the 70s and 80s. They were intrinsically tied. But yeah, I was just reminded by Something Wilder is one of the weirdest fucking shows I've ever seen, where you got like an 80-year-old Gene Wilder and like a 35-year-old wife with 2 kids, and he's clearly uncomfortable the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Gene Wilder could pull anything off. I believe in him.
Not that show. One season.
One season. Looks like it's on a trailer. Oh, the thing. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I have a feeling it's supposed to be pulled. Not sure if it's actually going in the water, and no one sent a photo of it actually in the water yet, or showed me.
Has anybody?
I've also seen other photos of it that I didn't get permission or ask permission to post, so I didn't. But of it in other places, like on that beach, and it's never been in the water as far as I know.
Has anybody gotten any photos of the cast members on this stuff yet? That's the thing that shocks me. We haven't seen any of that.
That was the whole question I had to ask myself. Do I put the story out today, or do I just sit on it until they come back to do the actual filming and see what we can get then? And I decided it's on a beach. Other people probably saw it. It'll probably start going around. So I just figured up against the clock. But I'm also like super paranoid all the time about that side of things, because I've had fake scoopers steal my shit from down water, like I've said before, because, you know, sometimes you got to ask around, and sometimes you start rumors when you ask around. And so like, yeah, there's been big announcements that I've had the heads up on, and I was like going to do a podcast on it, had the story written, just waiting. And then I had somebody who was down to do proofreading for me early on, and I forgot to remove that person, and they had access to what I was doing. Then they would like, oh, I think he's going to write about this or that. And then
Seriously?
you'd have, yeah, it was a thing. Like those are just the kind of stupid shit that you have to like deal with. And anyways, yeah. So
let's write a book series called Scoops.
Yeah.
Let's do.
Scoop.
Yeah, but we got to add some, like, there has to be someone hunting you down. But like, I
right.
Larry David books, like this because this shit is so nuts. I'm like, someone, I guess it is ruthless, like what you guys do, right? Like, everyone's like sabotaging or trying to find the thing before the other person, or do they do the thing, Jason, where like, if they don't like you, they pretend this news doesn't exist for another 4 months until.
Oh no, well, yeah, like the whole. So when I came into the Star Wars online community, which exists but also doesn't at the same time. If somebody wanted to argue that it does exist, that the online Star Wars community exists, I would say yes. And if somebody wanted to argue with it doesn't, it's a bunch of fragmented states, I would also say yeah. But with that in mind, they absolutely hated me because I didn't like gatekeeping. But what I find to be like hilarious about the community in general is a bunch of the people who I kicked the gate open for, because I kicked the gate open for myself, kicked the gate open for a bunch of other people. And once they got on that other side, oh, they were so happy to padlock that and be the opposite. But that always ends up, you always end up hanging yourself doing that in the big picture, because that little exclusive group gets smaller and smaller and more flaccid, and self-loathing just increases over time. And that's how I popped in the first time. You know what I mean? It was essentially like, And I also always use the concept like who's the good scoop? Bespin Bulletin's a good scooper. I don't think they ever let him in, even though he is. I'm gonna say always been on the top echelons of good quality work, and didn't cover my fucking Obi-Wan scoop Bespin Bulletin. Anyways,
it's no coincidence that the minute you start complaining about other people's, your stream gets all janky. Yeah, you're down to like 10 frames per second.
Start sucking the power out. No, but anyways, yeah, like you'll see him have something awesome. No coverage at all, and it's because they like to gatekeep. They like to make sure that everyone is like is identical. It really is weird because I dealt with fascism from the right, and I don't throw that around. I'm not the goth kids from South Park that goes around calling the barista a fascist. Like, you know what I mean? But I've actually dealt with fascism on the right, and boy, does it exist on the left too. And because I always say, and I don't say this. This is just truth. You could come around fascism from two different ends, and
it's a circle. They both meet up on one end or the other.
12 o'clock, fascism. Yeah. And but yeah, they would never really realize that they are that or understand what it is. But it's like, it's like, you could have friends of different political beliefs. Like, I just always hope that people are gonna come around, and they could really disappoint me. Like, that's the way that I take it.
That is the entire theme of the Watchmen series.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said right there.
Yeah.
It's not about superhero. It's about that point that you got these friends that have different beliefs, and they're really. You come to find out that there's no way you can change this. It's systemic, and there's shit hidden in their closets that you had no idea, no matter how nice to you they were.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that is the whole point.
And and I get how there are moments when you feel like there's like a line in the sand. Like somebody doesn't believe so and so should have a vote or be able to be married or something like that, and you're just like, fuck that. Like, I totally get it, because I've been there too, where you're just like, I am so, like, you are, no one can help you. But the reality of the situation is by leaving them there, you just leave them in the cult. You just go, you can't come home now. You're in the cult now.
Well, imagine imagine if the setup for The Force Awakens was that Rey had been on this planet with like a Matt Smith, right? A little Jedi dude training her the whole time. And then you come to find out this dude's a clone of Palpatine and never told you. You know what I mean? And like, what do you do when you like inherently have good wishes, but this person has like been deceiving you the whole time, and it screws up your worldview a bit,
Yeah.
And then the so-called hero, Luke Skywalker, wants nothing to do with you. What do you do then? Like, the villain, what is like? it's not so clear,
Yeah, well, I kind of thought that maybe they might go that way with like Kylo Ren, who, when you really get down to it, becomes a neo-fascist. He I mean, in a weird way, he has a lot more in common with that dude from American History X.
That's what I was gonna say. It's American History X was the closest I can put it to.
Yeah, and it's like Star Wars was always about like redemption and healing, getting past, fixing the wrongs of the past, and so on. And I don't and that was the only thing about Kylo's and the dyad concept that I ended up not liking in the big picture, is because it didn't really that doesn't help anybody or anything. In reality, it doesn't tell anybody. Like the Darth Vader message in Return of the Jedi is pretty powerful. Like, that one right there is, and if you're in a Christian society, which we don't want to, some of us want to pretend like we're not, but when you really get down to it, like the United States is very, very Christian on whole, even philosophically. And so on the philosophical level, I always think about I always wonder, like, because we do have our foundations philosophically in Christianity, and some of that philosophy is very, very good. You know what I mean? Like if you just took Jesus, a lot lot of his ideas, he's like a pretty cool guy. You know what I mean? And if you apply that to anything else, just like, yeah, don't be a judgmental fucker, forgive people, so on. Like, just be, like that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, I could get behind that. But increasingly, it seems like we have a much more unforgiving society with Judeo-Christian values. I don't know. I find it very confusing. And so what does Star Wars, or what does our made up infotainment style Star Wars stuff give us? Like what is the monomyth's message in these new movies? Like, what is,
Or we have to let go that Star Wars will even bother telling a myth or a moral ever more, that it will just move into arcs and plots
like
and
Marvel, like more, which is more
well, it's weird is I
leading by
think,
example, but not really.
except I think Marvel has been moving more into telling moral stories as it
Mm.
started out, and because like What If has a lot of complex moral quandaries.
Yeah, yeah, and even Thanos, the concept. I'm
Right, Thanos is
that
probably the
and stuff,
biggest
and
moral,
yeah,
and they deal with that in What If, like the other side. Right? He's like, no, see, it's totally not genocide because I'm doing it equally. Like, everyone's like, it's your genocidal maniac. Like, but I mean, it's weird how they're having more of a moral back and forth on the Marvel side, while the Star Wars side is moving away and just going into like literally, when I say Old Republic, I don't mean Star Wars. I mean Republic serials,
yeah,
where it's just like disposable entertainment, and that's where the Mando season 3, like, okay, he's gone through the father thing in a way, right? Like he cares about something more than his cult religion, right? Something
hmm
beyond himself. Because his religion didn't the Mando, I can't say that fucking name. The Mando's um religion is very self-serving. It's all about himself. He's always thinking about, I can't take my helmet off. I gotta do this. It's always about him, 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 him. And when he meets Grogu, that's the first time he's not thinking about himself.
yeah,
And he does make the decision, and then his own wants, like, I want this kid with me all the time. He lets that go for the kid's needs, which is obviously, as a father, is some people don't make that leap as they get into parenthood, right? It just
right,
becomes always about them. So in season 3, yeah, you could go, oh, the kid will come back to him. I don't think that helps his doing the greater good thing, right? Like beyond self-serving motivations, So like, I just wonder, will they do that, or will they just go the pulpy,
yeah,
cartoony route, So
yeah, because they're kind of, there is, I don't know, it's even kind of, you could even probably make a designation between like Luke Skywalker in A New Hope and like Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy era, where he is actually more Republic serial in A New Hope, in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It's like, my whole family died. Oh, adventure, and they like go right on. Whereas later on, he's like, oh man, I saw my nephew a space settler and I tried to kill him. I'm just gonna end it, man. I'm just gonna fucking do it, bro. I'm just gonna go to Octu, man. I'm just gonna shoot it all. I'm gonna shoot up all the midi chlorians, and I'm just gonna ride. I'm gonna get the dragon on my back. I'm gonna let the fucking dragon eat me, bro. And yeah, and so it is strange, like how it's the character is sort of bouncing in between being one thing or the other constantly, and it's weird how it'll be right for some people but not for everyone, and maybe that's why,
my
and maybe
problem with
maybe it can never be right because of that reason.
my personal problem with Ryan's take on what it isn't what Luke did in
Mhm.
The Last Jedi, it's what he's doing on Octu. Like what he's doing on Octu, I get going to the source of the Jedi, going to the place where it all started, but there has to be some talking to Force Ghost, some inner journey that's happening there where he's having these moralistic, like he's having these philosophical arguments with whatever. Like, look, every time the chosen one shows up, they murder the whole fucking galaxy. This isn't balanced. Like there needs to be this argument, you know, this literal argument or something happening there beyond just I'm just here and there's these Muppets that take care of everything and I drink milk and
he does. I mean, I think he like is having that argument with himself, obviously, and I think he wants to have it with Yoda, for instance. But then Yoda shows up, and I think he thinks that's where it's going to go. I think that's the fight he's ready to have with Yoda, and then Yoda's like, "Nah, man, this is your last lesson is this."
But he's been there for how long?
And
that just happened.
Well, let's. How long is he there for? That's when you have to talk that one up to Star Wars time. How long are they in space in Empire Strikes Back? You know what I mean? And there's still shit I frankly don't fucking understand. Like I was under the impression when they showed the X-wing underwater in Last Jedi that it was like the original the new X-wings, and then when he pulls that shit out, it's like the old one, and there's like stuff about it where I'm just like, I don't know, is this even in continuity or am I just confused? And I was just so exhausted at the time from everything that I didn't have the wherewithal to go and figure that out. I never did.
Such is the bane of that film, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, man, at this point, if I had to sit through that movie or Attack of the Clones, I'm putting on Attack of the Clones, dude. And honestly, it's not even a hard sell.
Yeah.
At this point, like that's the weirdest part about that whole thing. But I mean, we could just complain forever about it. But I just think it's like this idea that your friends have beliefs that they hide from you, right?
Yeah.
And that are actually pushing their motivations is I just think like the more interesting story in Star Wars to tell, because even if they're not, well, there can only be two Sith. People are like, oh, I got a nice Sith shrine in my fucking closet. You know? Yeah. I've been collecting all these nifty artifacts, you know? Like they're kind of haunted. They speak to me, but you know, like,
dude, since I wasn't married anymore, do you know how many like secret witches I've gone out with? It's crazy. You're like finally come out to the house. You're like, what is that? And I know what it is. It's like an altar like thing with incense and shit. And I'm just like, and then they always go, oh, it's just where I let my incense. Like they don't want to like get into it. I'm like, okay, all right, secret witch. But I know
everyone wants
hot,
superpowers, man.
So I'm
everyone wants superpowers.
They do.
You know, they want to believe they have the ability beyond what life has constrained them into being.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is the crushing weight of reality. And instead of fighting that, I pretend I have mystical powers so I can just kind of dodge my head out of it. You know, I don't have to.
My whole thing is you know, if you're gonna hide your magic powers from me, what else will you hide? So
the minute you leave, you know.
Geek Free says most people don't realize that I'm actually on this podcast. I'm just invisible and muted. I actually had to check to make sure you weren't. I was like, is he?
He threw some gauntlets down in the comments. What was it? When you did the force push, the Vader stuff, right? The scoop the other day. Some dude was in there like, oh, this is Kathleen Kennedy, blah, 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 blah. And Geek Fury is like, you know what, this shit, you guys, but he threw down the truth, dude.
Thank you.
I was like, all right. Thank you, Geek
Yeah,
Fury.
no, I mean, I'm in no way, you know, I don't have like I respect Kathleen Kennedy. But I don't have any like vested interest in being her online white knight or anything like that. But I do care about like the facts and not just crazy skewed perspectives on things, you know. Right. And like, you know, some people are making like a whole career out of it. If I wanted to, I could just put this helmet on and start. I mean, I could do it with the headphones
Sith
on.
wards.
Wouldn't be able to hear you, but I'd be like, oh yes, here we go. Today, Kathleen Kennedy is being fired again.
The show wards.
Wait! Something is talking in my earpiece now. What? She's been rehired again. She has her job back because she has dirty filth on Dave Filoni. Apparently, he has two Pornhub accounts.
Oh, she
and
found
one
out.
of them looks at babysitter porn.
Oh no!
Allegedly. Allegedly, don't sue me.
Well, it reminds me of Crow T Robot became a Sith.
You know what? I think we have to start calling our character Dave Filoni Jr. just to designate the real one and that one. That way it's just clear. Because Dave Filoni Jr., he's a totally different guy from Jersey who makes Star Wars movies in his garage. And he makes him San Fernando Valley, if you know what I mean.
That's where Santa's shop is at.
Santa's like, no, it's not.
I was in San Bernardino. It's not the same thing. Look, it's the same fucking shit to every kid watching TV.
Yeah, that's wild. But,
surprised we don't have a Bernardino in Star Wars at this point, right?
Yeah.
Or Fern Nando, right?
Well, I mean, it's all out there now. I was protecting where they filmed the Mandalorian, and then they went out and they're like, oh, it's the train yard and all this stuff, and there's all this stuff about it. And it's like you just like totally like made it easy to find, which is in El Segundo, by the way. And I thought for sure Mos Segundo was gonna come out at some point.
Sounds like a legit Star Wars name, man.
It does, doesn't
Mos
it?
Segundo sounds more Star Wars than Din Djarin. Like, if the Mando's name had turned to be Mos Segundo, I would have been all right. It's Mos.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like I'm super surprised that it hasn't, but no filming yet, by the way, for the exterior stuff.
Think they're waiting on the strike.
Maybe I don't think so though, because I was talking to a person involved with it, and they said that like the filming over in the volume has been very, very light as well. So I think I still think it's like they did start already, but I do think that it was like really, really an October start when you get down to it, and like now we're hitting the point where it's just going to start like rolling like pretty fast. But with that strike looming, they may try to get a lot done. There's always a chance. I don't know.
Only so much you can do.
Yeah, but they may try to get like
working crews
first 4 episodes done, and instead of filming like yeah.
We're only enhancing the reason for the strike, though.
Yeah. Well, it turns out the strike you guys want is going to make us have to work you guys about 3 days in a row, pretty much. And,
what? Can we strike now?
I'm just going to suggest that maybe you guys call an Uber for your kids to get to school from now on.
Oh, no.
During a pandemic.
The fandom menace is picking up all their kids for school. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, but yeah, I was kind of hoping that it like we would have a little bit more Mando content coming. But have you been following the strike news, or have you been following it very closely? Because I with my phone situation this week, like I had to like literally come over to this computer to like do anything, which means I really didn't get to. And yeah,
I have like to I mean pretty decent. I mean not like in depth, but I've been following it pretty well. Like they put out a video today explaining their point of view, like people on set who are like, yeah, like I worked for a company that just put their CEO into space and we're working 17 hours a day. And they like one of the reasons they're like, yeah, we work 17 hours a day. We don't get a lunch break because they came up with a lunch penalty back in the 80s that cost pennies. And that those penalty fees have never changed since the 80s. So they're like, we can get 4 or 5 lunch penalty fees where no one eats, and it costs nothing for us because we have a $300 million budget. So there's just all sorts of bullshit going on right now. And I guess they explained the video. I'll send you a video if you want to watch it because it's really clear where they're like, look,
is it short?
When these, it's 4 minutes, yeah.
Should we sift it on here? I mean, we have the time. If it's not hard,
sure, put it on, man. Let's watch.
No. Can you throw it on your end?
Yeah, 1 second.
Just to be
I don't
safe.
know if it'll do the sound though.
There's when you go to share that tab, there's a checkbox for share sound. There should be anyhow.
Okay, give me a second.
And then I'll make sure
you talk while I dig this up.
Yeah, let me see if there's anything in the comments I haven't hit. So Star Wars Santa says that Peacock has a lot of good content, not specific to just network content. One of our favorite services. Plus, it has a free tier. All right, I will check out the free version of it. I was talking to somebody last night, and they were talking about some show, and they're like, "It's on Peacock." For some reason, you know what it is? It's just like really like the name Peacock kind of just makes me mad.
Jim Cornette calls it the cock. So
the cock. Yeah. All right. Actually, I make sure I turn you up when you play the video. Yeah. So, is this going to be a whole nother tab or the one that you already had? Okay.
Is it? You see a big person, a big head? Yeah, that's it.
Not to call her a big head, but
well, I'm just saying. I didn't want to say. I was just saying. Can you see a head? Like I was just.
Yeah, but you called her a big head. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
God damn, dude. There's no winning with you.
Yeah. All right.
I clutch. All right, let me see if I can hit play.
Let me see if I can get rid of this.
I just did a promotion with The Rock, last Friday for Netflix, for biggest movie that Netflix has ever done. And because of The Rock's schedule, you're like, oh, well, we're just going to work through lunch. We'll just work through lunch more and more and more. And that's the big thing. Like now, at this point, especially post-pandemic, we're working through lunch constantly.
So no lunch breaks.
Because The Rock.
I need to get rid of this title. I don't know how.
It was $12 million an episode for a company where the CEO just went to space. And we were working 16-hour days, and we were scheduled not to have any lunches for a 6-month show. That's
wow.
reality.
So there is something in Hollywood called the line. Below the line are all the people who are the technicians, your makeup artists, your costumers, your hair artists, your sound people, your camera people, your grips, your electric, your crafty, your catering. They're all below the line.
Oh, what they got there?
And that means that they
get
a
Chang's?
significantly lower pay scale. That
Wait, pause it.
The above the line individuals.
They got PF Chang's, but they can't take a lunch break? Oh,
no, that's the below the line people bring the food, but they don't get to eat anything. They're for the above the line people. It literally is the fucking Morlocks, right? They treat them like it's ridiculous. You could imagine smelling food all day and you can't eat.
This poor guy here is eating his mustache. He's so hungry. All right. Sorry.
He's like, actually, when I eat breakfast, I leave some of it in the mustache, so later I can.
He's like, his job used to be Shia LaBeouf's stand-in, and he's really mad about this whole art turn he's taken in the last year.
The '70s stash came back. I don't know why, but yeah,
he got radicalized by Shia LaBeouf. Okay.
If you wear a cowboy hat, it looks good. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Swap can start in the hundreds of dollars an hour, or are salaried for millions of dollars for a project.
Wow. Yeah, that is pretty fucked up. That's a lot of money.
Car accidents, and some died.
Check
car crashed on the way home from being overworked and not getting enough sleep because the turnaround times are so quick. That's more dangerous than when we're doing explosions on set, or filming on top of buildings, or filming underwater, or on boats, or doing helicopter stunts. It's more dangerous that we don't ever break and that we have to drive home at the end of the day.
We take one break at 6 hours on the contracts that our unions negotiated long ago. They're trying not to actually have us break, because for them, if they don't break us for lunch, they pay a meal penalty. Those meal penalties haven't been updated since the mid-'80s, so for them, it's pennies. They can make us work 10 hours, 11 hours straight and pay 4 to 5 meal penalties, but it doesn't affect them at the end of the day when it's Amazon and the show has a $300 million budget.
So we'll work 16, 17 hours straight without breaking.
That's really
we work
fucked
what's
up.
called a Fraturday, which is when you go into work at 2 p.m. on a Friday, and then you work until 6, 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Pause it for a second, though. I do have to say, to its credit, and I could be wrong, so I hope I'm not misspeaking, but when it comes to Mandalorian, they get there early in the morning, but they go home. They don't keep them there. Maybe it's because it's exteriors. I don't know, but they don't keep them there. They never work on the weekend. On Friday, I'd say they're done by 5 o'clock every time. So I have a feeling Mando might be a better set than most.
Yeah,
maybe
the three companies are really singling out right now is Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu.
Right.
And let's be honest, even though Disney now owns a majority on Hulu, it was kind of a Fox TV thing,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, they get into this in a second about. We'll let them say it, dude. I mean,
okay.
Else,
Well, no. What I was going to say was, I mean, you have three companies who aren't classically film studios.
That's what they get.
Yeah, and so they're looking at the loopholes, and they don't see like maybe some of the things, like when that shit happened, it allowed for some flexibility at the time. Wasn't cool then, but it allowed for the flexibility. and then now you have a dude who goes to space and thanks everybody for pissing in a cup. So it makes a lot of sense.
Fucking
It makes
hate
a lot
that
of
guy.
sense. Yeah, fuck him.
To work. And it's happened where I just, without telling anybody, I fell asleep on the fitting room couch.
You have people like your camera operators or boom operators or script coordinators who they have to be stuck in the room while you're filming. So they would actually never get a chance to walk away to eat their food or drink water or have a bathroom break. And those are things that we just can't stand for.
So I wonder what happens when they do. Does it get all crazy like when Batman went crazy on that guy?
When the streaming services first decided to start making their own content, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, they were considered new on the scene. So they fought for a contract where they would have to spend less money on crew in order to have a new media production.
Right, that's what I assumed.
Point, all of those companies are the biggest players in the game. They are the biggest studios. They have plenty of money to be able to spend on budgets that are massive enough to afford whatever they want.
We see the big companies producing big budget projects, and we know that they're popular, they're selling, and people are watching it, but our crew who's working on those projects are getting paid like $5 to nearly $10 less an hour just because it's new media.
Yeah, that's like pretty jacked up, and it's one of those things where I'm sure
once we shut down,
most people will take it.
Skilled, talented workers are going to exit the workforce, and you're not going to be able to make these shows.
I'm prepared to strike because in the years I've been out here, I've only seen the conditions on set grow worse.
In the past, I've worked on a lot of superhero movies, and what I would like to tell everybody about these superhero movies is everyone behind the camera are often the real superheroes.
We're ready to strike to fight for a safer working condition and fair wage and just the longevity of our careers. We love what we do and we want to keep doing it but not hurt ourselves and have to exit the workforce early because of it.
Yeah, those demands seem very, very basic and completely fair. You know, whatever those, if the fines or whatever, like, and like we were talking when Allison brought it up when she was in the chat the other day. She was like, yeah, Lucas had a problem with the unions in England. And it's like, yeah, there's when you are up against the clock, like there are times when you do have to skip lunch. Every job has those days. Like it is just, it's a reality. But when they go and they turn it into every day, so that way and pay the fines and get things out quick and all
this
that.
This is why I left my job in t-shirts.
Yeah.
Is it was like, we would stay till like 2 a.m. on like twice a year when Magic's a big clothing convention that happens out in Vegas, right? And that's like where they bring all the different styles of clothing, text from materials to licenses, and they get all the salespeople. It's a big dog and pony show for sales reps to fucking schmooze and get paid and whatever. Fine, whatever. But leading up to that Magic, the week before, it would be like, it's expected we stay till midnight or 2 a.m. for a week, right?
Yeah.
And twice a year, you're like, well, I mean, they're paying us overtime. But then they were like, oh, we're just going to stay till 10. You're like, oh, that's good. But then we're staying till 10 every night after Magic for 4 or 5 months. Now I'm at work from 8:30 a.m. till 10 p.m. every night for 4 months. Going and with no end in sight. I'm like, when's this going to stop? And they're like, well, I mean, it's just not, it's, we got to understand they're in New York and you're on the West Coast. So there's this time. I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not working 15 fucking hours a day for someone to own fucking Lambos and mansions. You know what I mean? And like, I'm like, how am I going to, like, I can't, I'm living, pizza party every night, bro. Taco Bell every night. I can't live off that, like.
No, and that's what sucks. I was gonna say when we were watching the video is you have a lot of people who want in the industry so bad that they are willing to work like that to get in, but it's a double-edged sword in the fact that if it never ends, Like if there's no paying your dues, and you're just paying your dues forever.
Yeah, this is me
like,
10 years in the game, though,
No,
having
no,
already made
no.
them millions of dollars. And so that's what I'm saying. It goes
that's
from, you'll pay your dues and work your way up to, no, this is life forever now.
Yeah.
You're never going to break a threshold of payment. Like when I started in 2005, the upper echelon artists were making $55,000 a year. All right. This is 2005. 10 years later, 55,000 a year, still the threshold.
Yeah.
Do you think things got cheaper in California in that 10-year period? Like,
right. By the way,
the gas.
When your ear intersects with the B in Blockbuster in just the right way, it looks like you have those pierced ears with like the pogs inside of them.
Nice. The hoops.
Did you see it? Do you see it? Do you see what I'm talking about?
I can't. My eyesight, I can't see shit.
Yeah.
But I'll go back and watch. That's great. My buddy got those hoops one year.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just was taking those like trying to hit paper clips, like shoot shit through it. I just hit him in the head. He's like, stop it. I'm gonna make it one day. So, but yeah, so like I get what they're saying. And they got plenty of money, just no one's forcing them to do it. And they just feel they can just replace entire crews. I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, what's kind of messed up about it, or I don't know if messed up is the right word, and I don't want to take the other guy's side at all, but is that if it goes too far the wrong way, then you just have inefficient productions and things can't get done, and we don't get expensive stuff in the same way anymore. And so like it's too bad that they're just trying to save on the pennies on the dollar up front in such a degree, because if it swings the other way, it's worse. If the union goes and it kicks ass and it gets everything it wants, and it could overdo it, and then when that happens, then it's like, all right, we're hot, we're like ready to go. Oh no, sorry, it's Nancy's pee time. Sorry, you can't, even stuff like that, and that's what they're fighting against. They don't want that to happen, clearly. And I get that, but they need to set up some kind of system where when those moments are important like that, and Doug can't get his pee time, it's because they're going to compensate him for it, and it's going to make sense. You know what I mean? Like they are up against a time crunch. Something did go wrong that day or whatever, but it's every day for them. Then that's just exploiting your labor force. That's just you know what I mean, straight out.
We used to say if you could put a man on the moon, but now I'm going to say if we can put a CEO on the fucking moon, right? Certainly someone can come up with the same contract that says if you need to pee, you can go pee, and if there is some crazy fucking shot, you know what I mean? And we need you to hold it, right? We're going to make certain it's for that shot and not for the next fucking 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is totally doable, and anyone that comes on set, my fear, remember when Ahmed was talking about, was he with us? Or I think it might have been another interview where he was talking about when he was 20 something and he got a lot to prove and he was being kind of he was talking in another interview about when he was on Stomp and how he got the Jar Jar role. And it was about how like he had basically a disagreement. He was supposed to be the lead guy that night and he wasn't, because another person with more experience was the lead guy that night. And he threw basically a temper tantrum on stage. He threw his shirt on the air. He was being way over exaggerated. And he's like, I did a bunch of stuff that I would have fired that person now if they did that. But I was young and arrogant, and you're at that age where you're doing that thing where you want to prove how good you are. And that's just coincidentally what got him noticed by Robin Gurlin. Like that is, and I just think like, yeah, when you're 20, you got a lot of fire and anger. And if you're like a young 20-year-old director who's like, I'm going to come here and show everyone and I'm going to prove them, we're going to work. And it's like, meanwhile, the costume director was like, this is my 50th fucking show, and I've been doing this for 10 years. And like, I get what you're trying to do, but even James Cameron will say there was no reason for him to be the way he was when he was younger. There's no reason for it, and you gotta like, in studios, it's their job to temper the egos of I'm not gonna say megalomaniacal maniac, creatives, but of just people who really want to prove themselves, because you're gonna injure yourself in the long run. Even in basic training, the military knows, yeah, you push yourself, but there's a limit. We can't injure you to the point of we lost a soldier in training. So you push, but there is a point when something breaks, you stop, you get healed, and then you come back. So, and I just think that this puritanical society we live in, where they just no, you just work yourself till death, and then yay, you won the hardest worker award. You're in the grave. You know, it's just got to stop.
Work ethic.
Yeah, it's got to stop.
Yeah, it really does. It really does define a lot of American ideology on that front. And it you know, I think we all have it, even if we don't think we do, because we live in this society.
Yes.
And and I mean, I even get like the maniacal, driven, I must do this kind of thing. Cause I get that way. And then I watch everybody around me burn out and stop working. And then I'm spending more energy angry at everybody else who stopped producing. You know what I mean? Like I've had close friends go, I just don't have the energy like you do for something without focus. I just can't do it. And
I pushed a few friends away,
yeah,
let's say 10, 12 years ago, because I was pushing too hard.
Yeah.
For projects to be their best, to get it done, to go over. I'm like, why can't you just do this? Just, I'm doing it. Why can't you? And it's just, you have to stop that. Because Nintendo was a great example for a company that knows when to work and knows when to not, and people
know
could
when
say
to
they
hold
overcharge.
them, know when to fold them. Nintendo.
You could say they
Originally.
overcharge for their shit, whatever you want. But you know something, man? They don't fucking lay people off when times are good just to save an extra buck. And if a game needs 4 years, it needs 4 years. And they're not just cutting contract workers. They're finding shit for them to do. And that's I thought I had rid myself of this until this year, right? When I worked for this company that we've talked about. And I was right back to pushing myself to the brink of death. And something that now I'm just kind of getting over, but it killed my father. My father was one of these dudes who just was you just work and work and work. And then he died at 55. He died at 59,
Mm-hmm.
But he easily could have had another 30, 40 years in him if he had just been I can sleep and go on a vacation once or twice a year. He was making enough to do it. Just the dude didn't know. And he pushed everyone away because and that's what he did to me. He did that to me when I was younger. You just do more, and you always do more, and you always do more. And it's working hard, I get it, rewards a certain level. You don't want to have these rich, inherited kids who are everyone works for me because I'm fucking the best. Why do I have to do shit? But working harder doesn't mean you're going to get any further.
Work smarter, not harder.
Smarter.
Yeah,
no, and matter of fact, I think my father got a little, I hate to say it, God rest his soul, but he got a little dumber as the years went on from working too hard because he wasn't applying basic logic. When he was younger, he was more he didn't work as much. I don't know what that is, man. And I fear, these people, when she's people are dying on their way home because they didn't sleep and they got to drive their cars. God knows how many hours in LA traffic.
Well, it always makes them very, very angry. People in my family, when I talk about how, common sense is a construct. And I'm not saying fire bad, but societal, cultural common sense is a construct every single time. And they don't understand the difference between culture and that construct being not being a universal law. They see oftentimes no difference between it. They believe these are universal truths. And so they can't kind of see any other way. And then I think as time goes on and you are rewarded for killing yourself in that way over time, you just go you stop, you don't question things as much anymore. And you are literally just, I don't know if beaten down is the right way to put it, but I have to catch certain family members of mine in a very special mood before we can have a very realistic conversation about their labor force and stuff like that, and the oil industry and stuff. Bootsy, how's it going, Mr. Bootsy? Bootsy wants to know what your father was doing for work during his career.
Well, my father he owned his own private security company, and he also he worked is one of the he worked in security at Kaiser Permanente, right, during the day, and then he'd do his security stuff at night, right? And he only took the Kaiser job to get his healthcare, because in the mid 80s, guess what Kaiser did? They went and bought up all the fucking insurance, right? Because Kaiser's a super conservative company that teamed up with Reagan to basically, remember, they're like, we don't need health insurance because health is cheap. And then around the mid 80s, what happened? What happened to all the health stuff getting super expensive? Kaiser Permanente. So my dad had to join the fucking empire, you know, to get us decent medical care. Which is funny because then we didn't use it. I never went to the dentist or anything. It's so weird, my dad. So then he ran himself out of that job because that's a demanding job. I just say it's very difficult dealing with people in medical wards who get crazy, you know. So you time out. So he did that for about 10 so years. And then he had his private security. He always had his private security, but he also had a water store. He bought this water store, and he gave half of his, I don't know, he spent a lot of money on a taco shop or something that he got ripped off. But he just did this private security to his death. And what I mean, my father was always driving and never sleeping. He was always driving and doing different security jobs, and then private security, and sometimes bodyguard work, and then private. He was always, it was a 24-hour thing, you know. And so when I was a kid, my father grew up in a town called Colfax, which is like a rural town up in Northern California. It's where I think the Cedar Fire, it's giant fires going on right now. Okay. And I remember going there when I was a kid, and him and his brothers were adopted by this elderly lady. And they lived on, they slept, remember those green cots you used to get in like kindergarten for nap time? Yeah. Those cots with the green. That's what my dad slept on as a kid. Yeah. And he would go, look, this is where we slept, in the barn. And I was like, man. And when I went to go to the water store after he passed away to see what was going on, he had that cot. He had bought another cot like that, you know? And I was like, how was my father raised? You know what I mean? Did this woman just take in adoptive kids and run her farm, and then he reverted back to that? You know, like in some psychological way when he was an older person. I think about those things a lot now, like how much our childhoods affect our worldview. Yeah. You know, everyone goes, oh, when I was a child, I was abused. No, but you were, even if it wasn't something you were trained to do, your response could have been the thing you trained yourself to do. Your response to your childhood, good or bad, could have been the way you're now perceiving the whole world to be and how it should be. And that's not a good thing. Like, it's a very difficult, it's a philosophical point that I sit with myself daily now.
No, you know? I can't get rid of the chip on my shoulder. It doesn't go away. You know, you're not wrong. And it's really sad that crews that provides something that's so profitable and brings so much joy and love to the world are doing it kind of at their expense and of their physical and mental health. I guess if I'd be critical of the video in one way or in any way at all, was maybe the intended audience wasn't us, but it's like, I wish that they had said something in that video about like, what can the people watching those superhero movies do? You know what I mean? I mean, share the video, I suppose, you know, which I guess we just did. But that concept is one of the things that I think kind of maybe needs to be put into action there, because it's like you could tell like and maybe what they want to say is, or maybe what they're about to say and they're not saying it yet, and it's more of the threat to Netflix and so on, is we're going to say to boycott you. Don't subscribe to Netflix. Maybe they're going to hit that point, and maybe that was what that kind of was. Maybe that was showing that weapon, and the next phase is, here we go. You know, here we go, like boycott Netflix and stuff like that. And I'll be honest with you, if they do go that way, I would join them. I would boycott Netflix, and I just finished Squid Game, so I'm cool. I can do
it. Even if it's boycott Disney Plus, I'll put it down. We don't need these things, you know? Like, you and I, we grew up in a time when there was no daily Star Wars news. For how long? You know?
Starlog might drop some like sentence.
Right. For 10 years, but in little kid time it was like 30, right?
Lifetime.
So So it's like, even if it was like, oh, I'm putting Netflix, I'm putting every one of them down, and I'll just read books, until then, or listen to music and draw, like, fine, play video games, whatever. But like, I do think you're right that the problem is you have to phrase it in like, what can you do to support, right? Like, you want to support and we're telling you this is a problem. You support us, but what can you also do to help support our point? Because it does feel like, well, what am I supposed to do about it? I guess I can't do anything. So, good luck. Like, turn on the Chappelle fucking special, whatever, like.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you do care, I mean, you could try to use one of the contact forms in some way on Netflix and Hulu or whatever you subscribe to. If you don't subscribe to it and you tell them, it still might help them because they might not know that you're not a subscriber. But at the same time, if you're going to be real about it and honest, if you subscribe to one of those services, maybe you tell them, maybe that's the best way to go about it. Yeah, because when you get down to it, like when you look at what we had 20 years ago, in the movie theater, it was barely touching the quality of the stuff that we have on TV today. And like, I feel like Rome and Deadwood was sort of the opening of that new TV frontier. Sopranos, which I never watched, by the way, surprisingly.
Me neither, but it was there.
But yeah, it was part of it. And, but that's when we started to hit that point where like, yeah, series and film were like kind of merging and the quality was jumping, and digital, I think, was the thing that really opened up all of that right there. And so it's very clear, just based on what he's saying, or what the person in the video is saying about it being set in the 80s, it was a completely different era, a completely different medium, what it meant. Like if you were on the Bob Newhart show, unless Bob was having a few drinks that day, you were probably on a pretty fucking set schedule. You know what I mean, though? It was probably, yeah.
Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the book, gets into a bit of this, about set calls and how, like, there was a group of actors who came out of World War II and the Korean conflict who were so traumatized by what they did and saw in the war that they drank, actors. And they were given the pass, essentially, by crew because they knew the shit they saw, like George C. Scott being one of them. Like, yeah. But they had to work in that downtime into the, like, we just know so-and-so is going to need a few days for drinking because that's going to be part of the problem, but that is not like we're working 17-hour days every week for 6 months to make the greatest spaghetti Western known to man, they shot, like, you could shoot 4 movies in 6 months back in the day, and quote unquote, this is the time that we're told is the greatest period of movies, right? The late 60s to mid 70s, the greatest time in film period was not 17-hour days.
True. And so they weren't that expensive either.
Right. They weren't that expensive.
Yeah. Yes. And that's sort of like kind of, I guess where I was trying to take my point to some extent is, entertainment is in a way where it's very catered towards us Star Wars people, as we call ourselves, the Star Wars people. And, but it doesn't have to be that way. And if it's not, we're going to be sad about it. Like if, you know what I mean? If all of this changes in the wrong way, it could hurt, it could hurt where they make movies.
Well, it's hypocritical of us too, because you have fans who go, they make too much stuff. We should make less stuff. And then they go, they're not making stuff. I'm bored. Like, yeah. Where's my man? Why is it taking so long? Why is it taking a year now to get 6 hours of Star Wars?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just, what are you supposed to do? Like, it's the same argument when they say, hey, I think they should just release the movie with no trailers because trailers spoil everything. And then when they make a movie that has very little trailer coverage, they go, why should I even care? The trailers look lame. Like, you just said you didn't want to be showed everything.
Yeah, that's what happens when we have a social media society where whatever's on somebody's brain at that moment gets put out. Like in reality, if we went back to like the stuff that even I've put on my Twitter about Star Wars, if I was writing for Starlog back in the day, I might have typed it out, but then it would have sat there for 2 days before it went into revision and then got like ready to go
An
into
editor
the
would have
magazine.
looked at it.
And I would have been like, oh, I'm not saying no. What am I thinking?
Right.
And it's just
Right.
because you're in a mood, whatever your biological state happens to be at that moment or mental state.
Although
And
I worked for a game magazine called Play Magazine, ran by a guy named Dave Halverson. And since he ran everything, he would just put in what he wrote.
yeah.
And so there are these crazy Dave Halverson reviews where people are like, what was Dave on? I'm like, something for certain. I know Dave, like, yeah. And no one can check him.
He's like a Halverson editorial. Why Nemodians should have their own video game.
He once this was before my time, but I did talk to him about it. When he was at Game Fan, he once did some LSD or something and wrote a review on a game called Cybermorph. It was like the smiley ball, like 3D-ish game on SNES, SNES, whatever you want to call it. And when you read it, you can tell it's a guy who's tripping. Like there's no other explanation for it. Like it's not possible to write that without being under the influence of something. Like it's impossible.
So what was the magazine just like, this game is out there and this is funny if we do it this way?
He was like, my face is melting. I'm in this thing. I am the game, And when you look at it, you're like, it's this not even a great 3D-ish, 5 frame per second smiley ball, like PvP kind of split screen.
Somewhere an 11-year-old went and bought this game expecting to have their face melting off by it. Because
people did. Bro, I read it and went to Blockbuster and read this game and go, what is this? And I was like, this is lame. Like this is less frames per second than Star Fox. You gotta like this.
Yeah.
Or Melon.
I don't remember what the story was. Remember I talked about that bass player who sucked the other day? Who was just kind of a shithead I had?
Yeah.
One time a wrestling game was coming out, and when they started making wrestling games like 4 players for the Nintendo 64, like we just loved it. That was like, oh, this is the best, because I would just rename my like wrestlers. Like I'd give them names from books, like Sally Hayes from like Catching the Rhyme. Like, this is Sally Hayes, and I'd make a backstory. I had a good time, right? And so we send that guy. He has rollerblades. Should have been the first. Did you ever ride rollerblades, Rob?
My mom was a 70s roller skater who then went to rollerblades, right? And I was like, those look amazing. Let me put them on. No.
Yeah. I think you told me that before. Yeah. So he's like, hey, I'm gonna go out and I'll rent the game and I'll go to Subway. But you gotta buy me the sandwich and you gotta pay for the game. I'm like, all right, fine, it's a deal. And he's like, what do you want? And I that day I was in the mood for a tuna sandwich, and I wanted to play some of that Nintendo 64 4-player wrestling game. And all our friends are there. We're waiting. He goes out. He comes back. They didn't have the game. No, I didn't have it. Okay, I'll just take the change then. Oh, I got this, and it's a game called Bug Riders. It's not even 4 players, by the way. It made no fucking sense. He just like read it, and it was because he heard it was really cool in a video game magazine, and it was not very cool. It was fucking terrible. It was called.
I remember that game.
Bug Riders.
Yeah, it was on PlayStation, right?
I feel like he was supposed to get a Nintendo 64 game, but maybe he got a PlayStation game. Yeah, maybe it was even that bad. Oh, and
it's like an early PlayStation game, because I remember it reminded me of like if you were like on the back of a bug on Star Fox. It was very Star Foxy, like the polygonal. It was like Star Fox with textures, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I never played it though.
it reminded me of Centurions maybe, and so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, fuck all of this, fuck this guy, fuck all this shit. I go to eat my sandwich. I'm the first one to. We all got tuna sandwiches. He got mustard. Oh yeah, he's the guy who did the top ramen with the sour cream with the crazy mom, and he got mustard on all the tuna sandwiches. You ever had mustard on a fucking tuna sandwich?
It just dominates the whole sandwich. You just
what
eat
the
mustard.
fuck? What the fuck?
It's you might be able to put like 1/8 of a teaspoon of Dijon, right?
Yeah.
But it's such an
Maybe.
overpowering.
Yeah, it has to be if that's your jam. But this is just Subway basic ass yellow mustard. And I was just like, what is this person about? But so anyways, I'm pretty sure that he now runs Netflix, just so everybody knows. Pretty sure.
Definitely Hulu.
Pretty sure it's Hulu. Pretty sure he's calling the main shots at Hulu, and Disney can't get a hold of him.
Yeah, MODOK. That'll be great. Yeah.
He was supposed to go and buy a phone system for Hulu. He didn't do it. Instead, he bought Bug Riders. Instead, he financed a Bug Rider series.
You can talk
Hulu.
about it on your app. We can text each other, and we can all play and stream it on Zoom. Yeah.
God, I did a lot of ghostwriting over the last year. I'm not allowed to. I think well, I won't say what the book is, and I could probably talk about it.
You can say you did something. You just can't say what it is.
Yeah, I did ghostwriting for a person's book about business, and they wanted somebody with an American Studies background who could go and make sure that like they weren't stepping on the wrong toes and doing things in the wrong way. You know what I mean? And they wanted somebody who like knew when they were accidentally seeming racist. It's like, I'm not racist, please. But I don't want to seem racist. And I'm like, all right, I'll help you.
Okay.
I'm like,
All right.
And so anyways, I'm doing it, and Quibi was going on. No. I wrote whole chapters on Quibi.
Right.
And turned him in, and he was like, I don't know about this because it's I don't know anything about Quibi and all stuff. I was like, well, okay. If you want to pay me to do another week, I'll do it the other way, and then you'll have the Quibi chapters. I haven't looked at the book. It's out. I haven't looked at the book since it came out, but I know the Quibi chapters are in there now because you could just see that coming. The way that it split in those two personalities running that piece of shit company wasn't how bad the idea was. I loved every second of Quibi.
Yeah, well, I saw that coming about 1 billion miles away. Katzenberg's so batshit crazy. And he's like the king. Like him and Yui Boll teamed up, they might form a new corporate tax exempt country.
I think it would be a corporate tax.
Cats and Boll.
Cats and Boll. Cats in Bulgaria. No, cats in Bulgaria. I don't know. We have to think about this. Catsburgistan. No, anyways,
Cat's bowling stand.
But
let's not make fun of the stand.
The stand.
Cats
anyways, it all ends up with there being a Showgirls miniseries that goes on continually forever, with all of the original actors.
It's a Bug Riders miniseries that goes on for because he gets some lame cartoon that he doesn't have to pay much for the rights for that vaguely gives him an IP that people may remember once. Like what was that? Was that Area 51 game? Right? I've been waiting for them to turn that shit into a fucking. It's based off the game Area 51.
Yeah.
Or cruising. I always said, look, if you want to make a video game movie, right? Just make fucking MotorStorm with Michael Bay. There you go. Let's just endless.
Get Michael Bay, the technology from Avatar, Rad Racer. Make that shit. I'll watch it.
Cats and Bay. That's the name of the
Cats and Bay.
Cats and Bay. Yeah, that Quibi thing. Isn't it funny?
Our book is called The Pirates of Cats and Bay. Sorry.
Isn't it funny how someone hires you to do something because they're not good at, and then when you put in something that they don't know, I don't know anything about that. You don't know anything about writing a fucking book either. That's why I'm writing it.
Yeah.
Guess what else you don't fucking know about?
Yeah.
Or you're too lazy. I don't know. Either way.
No, it was you talk about those moments where you had your back kind of broken by company, doing that, and I honestly did it for a couple of reasons. Like I wanted to learn from authors and stuff like that too. And it was a good experience, but what wasn't were the moments where there were in nonfiction where there were creative lapse. There was like a creative lapse, and there was like an ability to actually put something really, really creative in there. And because I'm not all beat down by doing the original draft, I was able to like really add some really cool stuff and then kind of streamline it through. And some of the stuff was cool. And then I could tell, and I don't blame them, but it would sort of change the shape of like their baby. And then they didn't want it anymore. But it's like then do it all yourself. Don't let anybody else touch it. Yeah, and that's and I part of me understands, but I felt like
I just went through that with some indie games. Like I did some stuff for some dudes that hasn't been announced, and they were like, "You got all these great ideas. We've been listening to you. You got a great." And then I put down the fucking, we can do this and this and this and this, and then it was just like, it's not something I would come up with. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why you fucking asked me. No offense, the shit you came up with sucks. Yeah. Like, if I got handed, what's one of the best scripts ever? 7, right? I got handed 7. I'd be like, it's done. I don't want to change it. I would not add to something like that. But I swear to fucking Christ, you hand me like Bionic Commando, I can add some stuff to Bionic Commando. It's a cool idea, but it's not.
He's an arm. He swings on stuff.
Yeah, it's not when Oscars won the script. Like we could punch this up a bit. We could add a few things. So yeah, it is a bummer, but it does happen.
Yeah. I always trip out too on really good writers, especially though they get really tripped up on structure. And I'm no expert in structure, but I know it. But it's like they that's the thing that they lose sight on, and that's what I kind of figured out. Just keep bringing it back to the structure. That's what they want. That's what they hire you for. And
because it's something everyone can have a conversation. It's something producers can say, oh, structure, yeah, page 25, page no, and the arc, and it's like, yeah, it's one of those things like construction in art. You learn perspective, you learn construction, you learn gesturals, but then when it's time to be you make you, and those things you pick and choose at will. You put away. If the structure is weird because it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and you're right, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then people go, don't bring up Tarantino because okay. But if your structure is Albert Brooks, right? Yeah. And Defending Your Life, that's not a typical structural film.
No.
Defending Your Life isn't, and so like, but it's clearly his voice, right? It's a unique. A matter of fact, I'd say it's like, you ever get a movie where you're like, this is great, and then at the end they fucking it's like when Tarantino talked about Bill Murray movies, how Bill Murray gets to be Bill Murray, but then at the end they have to turn Bill Murray into a decent person. Mm-hmm. It's like My Blue Heaven is great, and then at the ending it kind of all comes together, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know if this character is having anything come together. He should end up right back in jail where he should have been at the beginning of the story because he's not fit to be in society, and he's always going to scam and ruin shit. Like, oh, we all learned how to scam together.
Head canon. I mean, if they made part 2, that's what it would have been. 5 minutes later, he would have been scheming in a diner doing something.
And he took them all to jail together. So now they're stuck. Mm-hmm. The women criminals are stuck together in the women prisons, and the male dudes, Rick Moranis are stuck in jail because you listen to a criminal.
Yeah.
You don't like, that's not the way to go. So, like that structural thing, you know who learned the lesson on that the most was Frank Oz. Mm-hmm. So when he did Little Shop of Horrors, he filmed it just like the play. And in the play, it does this non-structural. Okay, I'm not helping the argument, but this is something to bring up anyway. I just realized I'm not helping the argument. But in the play, the characters get eaten. Everyone gets eaten. The plants take over. End of story. Right? Yeah. And he filmed that. And Geffen was like, I don't think you should film that ending. I don't think that makes for a good movie. And he filmed it. That's the thing. That's the thing. I can't do his voice, but that's the thing. We're going to do it. And so he does it. People hate the movie.
Dang, right? We will.
I've watched it, and I'm like, Brave, this is a real bummer. Like, you slowly see, like, he gives his girlfriend to the plant to eat. Like, it's slow, bro. Like, and Frank Oz went and shot the happy ending that everyone got, right? Mm-hmm. But he goes, thing I didn't realize was that in a play, after it's over, everyone comes back out who died. Everyone in the play comes out and bows. So they lived.
Is
right?
that why? Well, I mean, he could have always done the post credits. Rick Moranis.
It doesn't play after everyone. It's a film is not a play, right? Each one has their inherent thing, Yeah. And because it's a play and it's not realistic plans and it's acting, it's different. But when in a movie, for some reason, even if it's a fucking singing plant, we believe this shit's real, right? Like we have to have that gravitas or that verisimilitude. Yeah. But I think that he was a slave to the structure of plays is probably what I was trying to make. And then in film, there's a different type of structure, right? Or at least a perceived endpoint. Do you like, hey, we spent $100 million on this. Maybe we want people to come back and not be depressed afterward. Like, maybe. So maybe
sort
I don't
of
know.
Weird, though. Sort of weird on their end to greenlight Little Shop of Horrors and then to go like, what you made that like that? That's kind of weird on their end too.
Yeah, the whole thing's weird. But I do think like this podcast I'm always shilling for is Writers Blockbusters. It's the Thunder Grunts. Writers Blockbusters is three guys, Jimmy George, two other dudes. I always forget their names. I talk with them on Twitter back and forth here and there. Jimmy especially. Yeah. And they're working screenwriters. Two of them are, one does mostly consulting, but he's a screenwriter. The other one works primarily for Nickelodeon. Like he does films and TV. Then the third guy.
He's like, when you really drop that slime on page 16, are you fucking serious right now?
They've had that conversation.
Shit.
Yeah. Especially because his favorite movies is like Monster Squad, like that.
And I'm just joking. I'm not
comedy.
trying to pretend like he's writing on. You can't do that on television in 1985.
And so they bring up structure, but then they get into like, look, structure is fine, but at the end of the day, like it's really become this tool that people who don't write use to then say, no, here's how you fix it easily. It's just a structural problem. Like you can't fix Phantom. Phantom Menace has a structure. Matter of fact, Phantom Menace has a structure that makes perfect logical Marvel movie sense. Mm-hmm. But to make that a movie everyone loved is not a structural problem.
Yeah.
It's not the structure that's the problem. It's all the characters. It's just likability. It's who the hell are we looking through the lens? Again, the Padme lens, or whose point of view are we really dealing with here?
When you have four things going on in the final act of that movie, he really needed to sell those relationships early on to make to make most of the general audience who's like, I don't know if I care about Star Wars care. Whereas when you have somebody like me who cares about Star Wars so much that I would invested into learning everything about it and know it, I could get the nuance out of it that a family member of mine who just watches it won't get. And it plays poorly for them.
The only one you sort of care who lives or dies is the Qui-Gon Obi-Wan. Mm-hmm. They're the ones in real danger because you don't know the Qui-Gon character. They're fighting a dude who looks like the fucking devil.
Yeah, he's just scary. You don't want him to get you, so you're like, no, don't get me.
But if Padme had gotten killed, I wouldn't have been shedding a tear. I'd be like, oh well, bummer.
But also very shy. Darth Maul is very shy, and that's something that that's why he doesn't talk, and people need to acknowledge that. Because if they did just acknowledge him and say his name sometimes, he may not have been so evil.
Do you think so? There's two things. One, the weird Darth Maul meme going around, is he red with black stripes or black with red stripes? Like I'm just like, is this really a thing? Can we get the color formers where we put him under warm water and we find out?
I believe he's red. No, he's black. He has to be black because his brother Savage is also black, and they have the tattoos are yellow on him, therefore he's black. We solved it. Darth Maul's a black guy. It's official. It's
not
official.
good because it's a white dude under that makeup. But all right.
Oh
He's not
shit!
helping
Another thing to let
He's either wearing red face or black face, bro. And neither one is really good for Giorgio.
We have to troll it. We have to be like, I don't watch Fandom because I don't support blackface. What are you talking about? You're talking about Jar Jar? I don't know about that. No. I'm not saying that. No. What? No. Jar Jar's great. I'm talking about Darth Maul. No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. The where these conversations lead, I'll never know. But then you get into like the structure of the Attack of the Clones. What is that? That is a weirdly laid out film, bro. Like,
yeah, it is. It's like it really is. It's the problem with the structure of that movie is it is two different movies at the same time. Obi-Wan has his own movie, and Anakin and Padme have their own movie, and I think one movie is really good and one movie is less so. And like, you know, when I was young and I watched that one, it was like it worked so much better for me because I'm like, yeah, of course he's like fucking being nerdy. She's Natalie Portman and she's super hot and like he's a Jedi kid. And I'm like, oh yeah, but you know, but that was just like me rationalizing it from my own perspective at that time. And but when you do look at it like as an adult, really, and you're like no, this is just really like the, you know, he called it a throwback and he didn't know if it was going to work. He always said that, like I'm doing a throwback romance to Forge. I don't know if it's going to work. And the answer was the answer was no, it didn't. Yeah,
the core key to that original trilogy is the Han, Luke, Leia. You know, and I get they get split up in Empire, which is what he's trying to mirror in a way, but because you have a different Anakin in the Phantom Menace, right? And you got two other people who are clearly way older than they were in the Phantom Menace. They've almost aged 10 years, right? In like a 2-year period, production-wise. You never got that triangle, that Star Wars triangle. That no, you don't want to hear. But I like it. But I don't like you. You know that thing.
Are you talking about the concept where like Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan had a threesome and then it was complicated after?
That's chasing Anakin.
Anakin? Yeah.
And it's a problematic film.
Okay. Are we going with chasing Anakin or are we going with chasing R2?
Well, R2 is non-binary, so
3PO comes in and he's like, yes, and then ever since then I've been chasing R2.
I've said it before, and to this day I still wonder, is R2, I don't want to use the R word in a way that belittles that, but anytime he inserts a thing into a computer terminal against its will, I'm like, that is an awfully weird. I'm gonna just take over this computer. I'm like, what's he doing? Like,
it's totally cool. Have you ever looked at porn on a computer? Computers are totally horny. Computers are horny sluts.
That's why there's so much porn on computers.
Computers want it bad. That's why all the porn is on the computers. Yeah,
you should finish the oral nuts. Like they deal with this. Like this is what they deal with. This is their wheelhouse. So
no, I completely want to finish oral nuts. I totally want to watch DuckTales. It took me like 3 weeks to finish Squid Game. I don't know why. I can't focus on anything but music, this show, and intermittent Fortnite. I don't know why.
Well, I'd give up the Fortnite, but you got kids, so I understand.
Oh, my kids, they're over Fortnite. I'm just not. I'm like earlier when you were talking about like the father stuff, you know, like what you have to like give for your kids. I'm like, yeah, I pretty much give my kids everything, but the one thing I don't give them is Fortnite. I'm like, you guys are gonna help me do my challenges. Nope, Daddy needs a team. I can't do the challenge without a team. I need you to do 5 games where we get top 10. And that's a thing in my house. But
yeah, my mom quickly, like, she was given everything, like, I'm the mom. Yeah. And then after the divorce, my mom was like, no, it's all about me now. And that's when I learned, oh, so parents are people. You know, they're not mythical figures that are always going to be there for you. They turn like people do. You know, it was a hard lesson to learn on me owns, you know, so.
Yeah. And some people mentally are like all in on something. and when they decide like I've given too much of myself, they've slingshot the other way too hard. Like I've seen that a lot. You know what I mean? Like a divorce happens and both were really good parents, and then all of a sudden one of them now thinks they're 20 years old again, and then the other one's left like doing all the work, and it's because during the marriage it was the other way or whatever. Yeah, it's fucked up. Yeah, people, balance is key. Balance is important. Balance,
but I just think like that Star Wars triangle, the Han, Luke, Leia, that's not a structural thing. That's not structure, right? That is a you stumbled onto the fucking magical elixir that makes this whole thing thrive. And to exclude that from a whole series of films because you're focused on, in a way, structure, right? A story, right? An endpoint is why, and what's weird is with the sequel trilogy, it seems to eschew that to try to go to the triangle, but it never commits to the triangle. It's always like, well, Poe died, but we brought him back because he did well in the screenings. But then they never put those three together until the last film when we're like, they went so far away from it in the first two that when he figures it out, right? He's like, I gotta put them all together like I did on Into Darkness with Spock and Uhura and Kirk, which works, by the way. That you just don't care. You're like, why are we doing this? How is this like this?
That's what happens in 9. Is whenever
that's what I'm saying. That's what happens in 9. That's
Whenever you have that, you have something for your characters to talk about if there's nothing to talk about for some reason, like in a expository or exposition filled moment. All of a sudden, Anakin's jealousy could creep in. Padme could give a look that is not appreciated by one of the that kind of shit, and it allows there to be character work as they travel through. And they moved away from it. And then JJ tried to put it back in, and it was kind of like when you're like a parent who hasn't really hung out with you or done anything with you for a very long time, and they come up and say, "How's it going, champ? What's up, sport?" And you're just like, "What? What?" You know what I mean? It has that. It has that kind of feeling to it.
My mother, when she disappeared, she came back that first Christmas. She gave me like coloring books for a 5-year-old. And I'm like 10.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, I'm 10 now. Like I know 2 + 2 is 4. Like I'm a little beyond that part of my life, Yeah. So I hear I always think like it didn't dawn on me until the IMAX screening of Attack of the Clones. And it's when they trimmed it down, but when Anakin and Padme are having that discussion on the dinner, whatever that is, they're not the dinner scene, when they're on the transport barge and they're kind of having like snacks in like the hull of the ship
when they're posing as refugees and they're eating.
Right. I was like, see, if Obi-Wan was sitting right in the middle, this changes the whole conversation and it's way more interesting. Right? Like if Obi-Wan and them were like, we can't, because he can't call you master, right? Like we're pretending to be refugees. Like, hey, what's up, Ben? Like, what if Ben just became a nickname he gave him when they were posing to be refugees?
They did that in Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, because it just dawned on me. Like when I was watching, I'm like, this is where it gets more personal, right? Where he's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna choke me? You can't, can't reprimand. I'm a refugee, Like so I'm over here, and then it just makes the dynamic.
I'm in deep cover right now. I'm a jerk in deep cover. That's all. It's not me.
Like it was an Onion put out a fucking orange that says every police officer's way to ready to sign up to be undercover in the white supremacists. Like
right.
Everyone's super happy to do it, but that's my whole point. Is that then that becomes not like a love triangle, but it becomes a triangle of like, oh, Anakin's either becoming more with her or more with him, right? Like which way? You know what I mean? It just it poses and
there's really good moments in the Clone Wars cartoon in the final season where Anakin is doing something with Padme behind the scenes, and Obi-Wan just straight up knows, and he's like, okay, like this is basically like this is the problem, and like he like lets it go. He's just like, I'm gonna like leave it alone and hope that my friend does like the right thing, but it plays really, really well.
And should have been in that film.
And it should have been an Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Yeah. And
In
so
fact,
like again,
it should have been that when they were putting them together, which was stupid if you didn't want that to happen. But it should have been like I know that you want this and you're not letting this go. I'm gonna let you go with her, and you can leave the Jedi Order and do this thing. And then in the end, he does it because it's a secret like that. There's ways that they could have went about it. I still like the movie. I find it watchable. I do, but it is and it has some of the coolest moments that we're talking about. But it does have those things where you're like, my problem with the romance now is that the romance now doesn't interface with the rest of Star Wars. That's when there was limited Star Wars. I was able to go, okay, and Han Solo's a different kind of guy. So the Leia romance is just what it is, like the screwball comedy kind of like routine almost. And then so I was able to like almost justify it to an extent. But now just having all modern Star Wars, it's the one thing that I feel like doesn't interface. Of it is that is that the Anakin Padme thing. It's weird. It's very George Lucas. It totally like I could imagine when George Lucas lied about getting laid. Like he's like a teenager. He's like, yeah, and like the kind of stories he would tell. It was Attack of the Clones shit. Yeah, and then
I believe Toad.
She was in all black lingerie by the fire. And you're like, why is she in that? Why is she a dominatrix all of a sudden if she doesn't want to bang him? Like, it's really weird.
Yeah, I just think Toad from American Graffiti is George Lucas. I think that's the most real he's ever been. Mm-hmm. You know, he probably was telling a bunch of tall tales and acting cooler than he was. You know, and then when he meets a real hot chick, he doesn't know what to do with himself. You know,
Marsha Lucas was pretty foxy lady, gotta say.
Yeah. Yeah, and she even said, like, this is the most you, George. And I go, yeah, at the Cars of Modesto, but I think Toad is it's really the Georgiest of Lucases that we get.
Well, should we call it a day and let everybody get on with their old weekend here?
Let's do it. Let's get on with the weekend. I gotta go watch Dragon Quest.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, all right. You're gonna watch some Dragon Quest. I'm probably gonna watch DuckTales. Probably. I
just understand that the first few episodes it's setting up everything, right? So
yeah,
it's there, but they're kind of split. And it does. I think it was so great. It's good, but you'll see what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and if you guys think that this show deserves support, become a Patreon member, become a channel supporter. If you don't think it deserves it, then well, fuck you, man. But I get it, no problem. And
buy Jason more bandwidth for the show.
Yeah, right. I have great internet, man. I play video games like no problem. I don't get what's going on. But and then the other thing I was going to say was, oh yeah, and then email Netflix or whatever streaming services that you use and tell them that you support the strikers and that you'll stand with them and that you hope that they meet each other in the middle. You know. Because I do think, and I will say that's the one thing I'll say is that I think that they should meet each other in the middle. Film production isn't necessarily being an administrative assistant in an office. You know what I mean? Where you're like, hold on, I have to go. You know, there's a lot of people waiting on a lot of parts moving all at the same time. But people also need to be able to take a deuce and eat a sandwich.
Yeah, the best things in life. I'll end on this. Way too much of corporate America likes to pretend it's the military.
Yeah.
And so these terms like we're going to pull the trigger, you know, and we're green to green, shit like this. It's just like, I'm like, you're not the fucking military. These aren't soldiers. This isn't a war. Stop acting like you're the fucking General Patton, you know? And like, seriously, fucking start treating people as if they were actual fucking people, not cogs in your Rubes Goldberg movie machine.
Hey, I'm just saying, dude, some people had Vietnam. I had Twitter. Just throwing that out there right now. All right. Everybody.
Oh, no. That's what we're going to take.
Say bye.
Thumb butts.
It's not about spaceships.
Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show. Making Star Wars Show.
It's not about spaceships.
Padme, I love you, Padme Inquisitor. It's so hot, Padme Inquisitor. I love you. I love you, Padme. All right. If they got